My name is Bessie. I'm 35 years old and I'm sitting here, folding my sister Beulah's wedding dress into a shipping box along with her divorce papers. 3 months ago, she banned my 8-year-old adopted daughter, Maya, from her wedding because she wasn't real family. So at her reception, in front of 200 guests, I played a video that exposed her new husband, Creighton's 2-year affair with her maid of honor. They wanted a perfect family wedding. I gave them one they'll never forget. Before I share this incredible story, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Are you part of an adoptive family too? Have you ever had to stand up to family members who crossed the line? Please hit that like button. If you believe family is about love, not just blood, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories. Trust me, what happened at this wedding will leave you speechless. Let me take you back to where this all began. For 7 years, I tried everything to have a baby. Fertility treatments drained my savings and my spirit, but nothing worked. My marriage couldn't survive the strain, and by 30, I was divorced and convinced motherhood wasn't in my cards. That's when I started volunteering at a community center to fill the emptiness. One afternoon, this little girl with pigtails and the biggest brown eyes approached my craft table. She carefully arranged her beads in a pattern and whispered, "I'm making this for my mommy and daddy in heaven." That was Maya, 5 years old, whose parents had died in a car accident 6 months earlier. Something shifted in my chest that day. Over the next few weeks, Maya and I developed this beautiful routine. She'd save me a seat at snack time, and I'd help her with her art projects. Her foster mom noticed our connection and pulled me aside one day. "She hasn't smiled like that since the accident," she said. "Have you ever considered adopting?" The question haunted me for weeks. Could I really do this, raise a child on my own? But every time I saw Maya's face light up when I walked in, I knew the answer. The adoption process took 18 months of home studies, background checks, and court dates. Some days felt impossible, especially when well-meaning people asked why I'd want to raise someone else's child, or suggested I might still meet someone and have my own. But the day the judge declared Maya officially mine, when she flew into my arms, calling me mommy, for the first time, every struggle disappeared. We were 3 years into our beautiful life together when the real challenges with my family began. My parents, who lived 20 minutes away, maintained what I call polite distance. They'd send birthday cards and Christmas presents, but their visits felt like obligations. My sister Beulah was worse. From day one, she treated Maya's adoption like a phase I'd outgrow. "Why complicate your life raising someone else's problems?" she'd say, as if Maya was standing right there. "You're still young enough to have your own." I'd bite my tongue, reminding myself that Beulah had always been self-centered, even as kids. The surprise came from Creighton, Beulah's boyfriend of 3 years. He seemed genuinely welcoming to Maya, bringing her books and helping set up her bedroom when we moved to a bigger apartment. "Every kid deserves a loving home," he'd said, shooting a meaningful look at Beulah. "Bessie's doing an amazing thing." I should have recognized manipulation disguised as kindness, but I was grateful anyone in my family showed Maya warmth. Maya thrived despite the coldness from some family members. She excelled in school, earning straight A's and glowing reports from teachers. She took up violin and practiced with dedication that amazed me. At 8, she was thoughtful, creative, and had this way of seeing beauty everywhere. But she also noticed things I tried to shield her from, like how Grandma always held her just a little differently than the other grandkids, or how Aunt Beulah's smile never quite reached her eyes. The first undeniable rejection came at my parents' 40th anniversary party. The photographer gathered everyone for a formal family portrait, and I positioned Maya in front of me. My mother cleared her throat. "Actually, Bessie, this one is just for immediate family. We'll do another with everyone after." My stomach dropped as I realized they meant Maya should step out. The looks from my cousins ranged from pity to agreement. Sweet Maya, just said, "Oh, okay," and went to sit with my friend who'd come as my +1. That night, she asked me why Grandma didn't want her in the picture. I had no good answer. Beulah's coldness escalated gradually. She'd forget to invite Maya to cousin gatherings, claiming they were accidentally planned as adults-only events. She missed Maya's birthday party because of a last-minute work emergency that I later saw on Instagram was actually a spa day. When I tried addressing it gently, she'd gaslight me with responses like, "God, Bessie, not everything is about you and your choices," or "I'm not obligated to rearrange my life around your situation." The word situation stung every time. Maya wasn't a situation. She was my daughter. I kept making excuses for them, hoping time would soften their hearts. Maybe when they saw Maya grow up, achieve things, become undeniably part of our family story, they'd come around. I organized family dinners, sent photo updates, included them in every milestone. But you can't force people to expand their definition of family, and some hearts are too small to hold a love that doesn't look like them. The night that changed everything started like any other family dinner. Beulah had insisted on hosting, which should have been my first red flag since she usually avoided any effort beyond ordering takeout. The table was actually set with real plates instead of paper, and she'd even attempted Mom's pot roast recipe. Maya and I arrived to find the whole extended family gathered cousins I hadn't seen in months, and enough food for twice our number. Creighton kept refilling wine glasses with suspicious enthusiasm, and Beulah practically vibrated with excitement. Halfway through dinner, she clinked her fork against her glass. "Everyone, Creighton and I have an announcement." She thrust out her left hand where a massive diamond caught the light. "We're getting married!" The table erupted in congratulations. My mother actually cried, and my father opened champagne he'd apparently been hiding in the kitchen. I hugged them both, genuinely happy despite our complicated relationship. Marriage might mellow Beulah, I thought. Maybe this would be a fresh start for all of us. Then Beulah launched into her vision. A summer wedding at the Riverside Country Club, 200 guests colors of blush and gold. She'd already chosen her maid of honor, Astrid, her college roommate, who'd flown in for the announcement. "And of course, I want all my cousins in the wedding party," she gushed, pointing around the table. "Sarah, you'll be a bridesmaid. Jennifer, you too. Oh, and the kids, all my nieces and nephews, will be flower girls and ring bearers. Little Tommy, you'll look so handsome in a tiny tux." She went around the entire table, assigning roles to every cousin, every child, her eyes sparkling with plans. Maya sat up straighter each time Beulah named another young cousin, waiting for her turn. When Beulah finally stopped talking, Maya's small voice piped up. "What about me, Aunt Beulah? What do I get to do?" The room went silent. Beulah's smile flickered for just a moment before hardening into something practiced. "Oh, sweetie, this is just for family members. But you can definitely come watch." The words hung in the air like a slap. I watched Maya's face crumble in slow motion, her eyes filling with confusion and hurt. Around the table, relatives suddenly found their plates fascinating. Only Creighton shifted uncomfortably, but he stayed silent. "Excuse me." I managed to keep my voice level, though my hands shook under the table. "Maya is a family member." Beulah rolled her eyes with theatrical exasperation. "You know what I mean, Bessie. The wedding party is for blood relatives. It's traditional. I'm sure Maya understands, don't you, sweetie?" She directed that last part at my daughter with condescending sweetness that made my skin crawl. Maya nodded quickly the way kids do when they sense adult tension and want to disappear. "It's okay, Mommy," she whispered, but I saw her bottom lip tremble. That's when something snapped inside me. 3 years of microaggressions, of polite exclusions, of treating my daughter like she was somehow less than all crystallized into pure maternal rage. "We need to talk, now." I stood my chair, scraping against the floor. "Privately." Beulah huffed but followed me to the kitchen. The moment the door swung shut, I unleashed. "How dare you in front of everyone? She's 8 years old." Beulah crossed her arms, her engagement ring catching the light like a weapon. "Don't be so dramatic. It's my wedding. I get to choose who's in it." "She's your niece," I hissed, trying to keep my voice down. "She calls you Aunt Beulah." "No." Beulah's voice turned ice cold. "She's some random kid you picked up because you couldn't have your own. That doesn't make her my niece. Biology makes someone a niece. And frankly, I'm tired of pretending otherwise." Each word felt like a physical blow, but she wasn't done. "Mom and Dad feel the same way. We've all been very patient with your little experiment, but I'm not rewriting family traditions for your choices." I couldn't speak for a moment, processing the casual cruelty. "My little experiment, she's a child. My child." Beulah laughed, actually laughed. "Your child. Please. You're babysitting until she grows up and goes looking for her real family. Everyone knows how these things end. Why should I include her in family photos when she'll probably abandon you for her birth relatives someday?" The kitchen door opened and my mother appeared. I felt a spark of hope that she'd defend us, but instead, she placed a hand on my shoulder with practiced sympathy. "Bessie, honey, you need to respect Beulah's wishes. It's her special day. Not everything's about you and your situation." There was that word again. Situation. Are you serious right now? I looked between them, these women who shared my blood but not my values. "You're really okay with excluding a child from a family event because she's adopted?" My father materialized behind my mother. "Now, Bessie, don't make a scene. Beulah has a right to plan her wedding how she wants. Maya will understand when she's older. It's nothing personal." but it was everything personal. It was the most personal form of rejection, wrapped in etiquette and tradition. I found Creighton in the hallway, clearly eavesdropping. "You're really not going to say anything," I demanded. He couldn't meet my eyes. "It's Beulah's day," he mumbled. "I just want her happy." I wanted to scream that making a child feel excluded wouldn't make anyone happy, but I was done begging people to show basic decency to my daughter. When I returned to the dining room, Maya had shrunk into herself, pushing food around her plate, while cousins chatted about their wedding rolls. I knelt beside her chair. "Hey, baby, want to get out of here? I'm thinking ice cream for dinner." Her relief was palpable. As we gathered our things, Beulah called out with false brightness, "Don't be like that, Bessie. She can still come to the wedding." I turned at the door, meeting the eyes of every family member who'd sat silent. "We'll see," I said quietly. Inside, I was already making different plans. They wanted to exclude my daughter. They had no idea what they'd just started. That night, after Maya cried herself to sleep in my arms, I sat in her room watching her breathe. She'd asked heartbreaking questions. Why didn't Aunt Beulah want her? Was it because she looked different? Had she done something wrong? I'd assured her over and over that she was perfect loved, and that sometimes adults made wrong choices. But her innocence had taken a hit, and that was unforgivable. The next morning brought a hollow apology text from Beulah. "Sorry if you got upset. You know I love Maya in my own way, but traditions matter. Hope you understand." I stared at those words, "love Maya in my own way," and realized her way meant conditional, limited, and only when convenient. That wasn't love at all. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and started a new document titled Wedding Plans. If Beulah wanted a memorable wedding, I'd make sure she got one. 3 months before the wedding, I made a tactical decision. Despite every instinct screaming to cut them off completely, I called Beulah and offered to help with wedding preparations. "I've been thinking," I said, forcing warmth into my voice. "You're right. It's your day. I want to support you." The silence on her end stretched so long I wondered if she'd hung up. Then came her suspicious response. "Really, you're not going to be weird about the Maya thing." I gritted my teeth. The Maya thing was how she'd reduce my daughter's exclusion and pain. "No, I want us to move past it. We're sisters." The relief in her voice was almost comical. Of course she'd believed I'd cave. I'd been caving to family pressure my whole life. "Oh, Bessie, I knew you'd come around. Can you come over Thursday? I need help with centerpieces." And just like that, I was in. Those early weeks tested every ounce of my self-control. I sat through venue tastings where Beulah complained about the quality of free champagne. I helped address invitations that pointedly listed every family member's child except mine. I smiled through dress fittings where bridesmaids gushed about what an honor it was to support Beulah's perfect love story, all while documenting everything waiting for the right moment. Creighton's behavior during this time should have been my first real clue. He started dropping by my apartment with increasing frequency, always when Beulah was busy with wedding tasks. "Just wanted to check on you and Maya," he'd say, arriving with her favorite cookies or a new book. Maya, starved for family kindness, welcomed these visits. I tolerated them, thinking he felt guilty about staying silent during the dinner announcement. One evening, he showed up looking particularly stressed. Beulah had sent him away during a meltdown about napkin colors, and he'd brought Chinese takeout as a peace offering. Maya was at a sleepover, so it was just us. 3 beers in his careful facade started cracking. "She's impossible lately," he slurred slightly. "Nothing's good enough. The flowers are wrong, the band's wrong, I'm wrong." I made sympathetic noises while internally noting that wedding stress didn't excuse cruelty to children. "You know what the worst part is?" He leaned forward conspiratorially. "She acts like this perfect person, but she's actually—" He caught himself shaking his head. "Sorry, I shouldn't. She's your sister." But seeds of doubt were planted. What wasn't he saying? I poured him another beer and waited. "Alcohol and frustration make excellent truth serums." His phone buzzed on the table between us. "Venue photos," he explained, fumbling with the screen. "Beulah wants to see the new lighting options." But his fingers, clumsy from drinking, opened the wrong app. Messages flooded the screen, and one name made my breath catch. Astrid. The same Astrid who was Beulah's maid of honor. The preview of the last message showed, "Can't wait to see you tonight," followed by heart emojis. Creighton realized his mistake a second too late. He grabbed the phone, but I'd already seen enough. That's not what it looks like," he stammered, suddenly very sober. But his panic told me it was exactly what it looked like. "How long?" I asked quietly. His shoulders slumped in defeat. 2 years, he whispered. 2 years. He'd been cheating on my sister for 2 years. Before the engagement, before the proposal, probably before half the relationship milestones Beulah had gushed about on social media, with her best friend, her maid of honor, the woman who'd be standing beside her, vowing to support their marriage. "You have to tell her," I said immediately. He laughed bitterly. "Tell her? 3 months before the wedding, she'll destroy me. Both of us. Astrid and I. We tried to end it, multiple times, but—" He trailed off and I filled in the blanks. But they didn't want to. But the thrill was addictive. But they were in love. But, please, he begged, actually grabbing my hands. "Don't say anything. It's over now, I swear. The wedding will fix everything. Once we're married, I'll be better. She'll be better. We'll be happy." I yanked my hands away, disgusted by his delusion and his damp palms. "You're cheating on her with her best friend, and you think marriage will fix it." He tried another angle. "Think about Maya. I've always been good to her, haven't I? When everyone else—" He let that hang, a subtle threat wrapped in past kindness. "Are you seriously trying to blackmail me with being decent to my child?" "Not blackmail," he said quickly. "I'm just saying I'm not the bad guy here. You know how Beulah is. Cold, controlling, mean. She drove me to it. Astrid actually listens to me, supports me." I held up a hand to stop his justification parade. "I need you to leave. Now." After he stumbled out, I sat in my kitchen for hours processing. Part of me felt savage satisfaction. Beulah, who'd lorded her perfect relationship over my failed marriage, was being betrayed by the two people she trusted most. But another part, the sister part I couldn't quite kill, felt sad. She was awful, but she didn't deserve this. Then I remembered Maya's tears, her small voice asking why she wasn't family enough. I thought about every slight, every exclusion, every time Beulah had diminished my daughter's place in our family. Sympathy evaporated. Beulah had made her choices. Now I had information, and information was power. Over the next weeks, I became an accidental detective. Creighton's sloppy mistake had opened my eyes, and suddenly I saw evidence everywhere. Astrid's Instagram stories that placed her at locations where Creighton worked late. Charges on wedding credit card statements for restaurants. Beulah never mentioned visiting. The way they stood too far apart at wedding vendor meetings, overcompensating with stiff formality. I documented everything meticulously. Screenshots, photos, a timeline that showed the affair's progression. The most damning evidence came from Creighton himself. After our confrontation, he'd panic texted Astrid about being discovered. She'd responded with detailed messages about keeping quiet, maintaining appearances, and after the wedding, we can figure things out. They were planning to continue the affair into the marriage. One particularly nauseating exchange discussed Beulah explicitly. Astrid called her controlling and shallow. Creighton agreed, adding that at least after marriage, he'd have access to her trust fund. They laughed about how Beulah was too self-absorbed to notice what was happening right in front of her. The cruelty was breathtaking, but it was also evidence. I also reached out discreetly to some of Creighton's exes. Social media made it surprisingly easy to track down past relationships. 3 women responded to my carefully worded messages. Each told similar stories. Creighton, the charmer, who became Creighton, the cheater, usually with their friends or coworkers. One ex even warned she'd tried to tell Beulah early in their relationship, but was dismissed as a jealous former girlfriend. The evidence folder on my laptop grew thick with betrayal. But I kept helping with wedding planning, kept smiling, kept being the supportive sister. Beulah noticed nothing too wrapped up in her pursuit of perfection. She'd even started being marginally nicer to me, though she still never mentioned Maya. "I'm so glad we moved past that drama," she said one day, while sampling cake flavors. "Family is so important." I agreed that family was important. That's why I was going to protect mine, even if it meant destroying hers. With 2 months until the wedding, I shifted into high gear. My offer to coordinate with the videographer and photographer was accepted eagerly by Beulah, who was drowning in decisions about chair sashes and cocktail napkins. "You're a lifesaver," she gushed, handing over vendor contracts without reading them. "Just make sure they capture every perfect moment." Oh, I'd make sure of that. My first meeting with the videographer, a young guy named Marcus, who specialized in wedding documentaries, went better than expected. After discussing standard shots and schedules, I made my special request. "I want to create a surprise video gift for the couple," I explained. "A compilation of family memories and well wishes. Would you be able to help edit something like that?" His eyes lit up at the creative challenge and the substantial extra payment I offered. We scheduled private editing sessions, and I left with his direct contact information. At home, Maya noticed my increased involvement with wedding preparations. "Why are you helping them when they're mean to us?" she asked one night over homework. It was a fair question from an insightful 8-year-old. I chose my words carefully. "Sometimes, sweetheart, the best response to cruelty is strategic patience. Not every battle needs to be fought with loud words." She considered this, then nodded slowly. "Like in chess. Sometimes you let them take pieces while you plan checkmate." My brilliant girl understood perfectly. The wedding planning revealed new depths of Beulah's self-absorption. During a bridesmaid's dress fitting, she spent 40 minutes berating a seamstress for taking in a dress half an inch too much. "This is my day," she shrieked. "Everything has to be perfect." Astrid stood nearby, comforting her with hollow words while texting rapidly on her phone. I knew who was on the other end of those messages. My parents fully embraced their roles as parents of the bride, throwing themselves into preparations with enthusiasm they'd never shown for my achievements. Mom spent hours discussing flower arrangements while Dad wrote check after check without complaint. They hosted an engagement party where Maya and I were technically invited but strategically seated at a back table with distant relatives. During toast, they praised Beulah for maintaining family traditions and knowing what really matters. Each word was a knife, but I smiled and raised my glass. The evidence against Crichton and Astrid continued mounting. They'd grown overconfident, meeting more frequently, as wedding stress provided convenient excuses. I discovered their favorite hotel, a boutique place downtown that Crichton charged to his business credit card. The desk clerk, charmed by my story about planning a surprise anniversary party for my brother-in-law, confirmed they were regular guests. Security footage I definitely didn't bribe anyone to glimpse showed them entering together multiple times. One afternoon, while helping Beulah choose between identical shades of white ribbons, she made a comment that solidified my resolve. "I'm so glad Crichton understands about the whole Maya situation," she said casually. "His family has good bloodlines, old money-strong genes, will have beautiful children, real children." The implication hung between us. I forced myself to nod while internally screaming. She continued oblivious. "No offense, but I could never do what you did. Raise some random child, never knowing what kind of genetics they're carrying. What if there's mental illness or addiction in their background?" I thought of Maya, honor roll student and violin prodigy, whose biggest genetic gift was resilience in the face of ignorance. "She's lucky to have you, though," Beulah added with condescending approval. "Someone needs to take care of the unwanted ones." The unwanted ones. That's how she saw my daughter. I excused myself to the bathroom and stood gripping the sink until my knuckles went white. Strategic patience, I reminded myself. Just a little longer. My video project progressed beautifully. I'd compiled old family footage, showcasing Beulah's journey from child to bride-to-be. But interspersed throughout were subtle hints of what was coming. Recent clips showed Maya being excluded from family events. Conversations caught when people didn't know cameras were rolling. The real bombshell waited at the end, a crescendo of evidence that would shatter Beulah's perfect day. 3 weeks before the wedding, I attended Beulah's bridal shower, a garden party affair that cost more than some people's entire weddings. Astrid gave a touching speech about friendship and loyalty, managing to keep a straight face while praising Beulah's relationship with Crichton. "To see two people so perfectly matched, so deeply in love, it gives the rest of us hope," she said, dabbing at dry eyes. The performance was Oscar-worthy. I filmed every second. The shower games included writing marriage advice cards. I wrote mine carefully. "Trust is the foundation of any marriage. Without honesty, even the prettiest house of cards will collapse." Beulah read it aloud and laughed. "Leave it to Bessie to be philosophical." "This is why you're alone, sis. You overthink everything." The room tittered politely at my expense. I smiled and said nothing. Later, while Beulah opened gifts, I overheard my mother talking to an aunt. "It's such a relief to see Beulah settling down properly. After Bessie's unconventional choices, we worried neither girl would give us real grandchildren." Real grandchildren. As if Maya was imaginary. As if love made her less than. I video recorded that too, another piece of evidence showing how deep the rot went in my family tree. The universe seemed determined to provide more ammunition. Crichton, stressed about maintaining his double life, made increasingly sloppy mistakes. He left his email open on Beulah's laptop during a venue visit. While she harassed the coordinator about candle placement, I quickly photographed messages between him and Astrid discussing their post-honeymoon plans. They were apartment hunting. Together. He planned to string Beulah along until her trust fund fully vested after a year of marriage, then leave. But the most damning evidence came from an unexpected source. Beulah's cousin Rachel, who'd always been kind to Maya, pulled me aside at the shower. "I overheard something you should know," she whispered, glancing around nervously. She'd been at a bar the previous weekend and spotted Creighton and Astrid in a back booth. They were all over each other, she said. But that's not the worst part. They were laughing about the wedding. Astrid said. She paused, looking sick. She said she couldn't wait to stand next to Beulah, knowing what they'd done in her bed while she was at work. I hugged Rachel, thanking her for the information. She asked what I planned to do. What I have to, I said, simply. She nodded, understanding. For what it's worth, I think it's wrong how they treat Maya. She's family to me. One ally in a sea of complicity. It wasn't much, but it mattered. The final weeks flew by in a blur of last-minute alterations and vendor confirmations. I perfected my supportive sister act, even offering to give a speech at the reception. Really? Beulah seemed genuinely touched. You'd do that after everything? I assured her I wanted to contribute to her special day. She hugged me for the first time in years. Maybe after I have kids, they can play with Maya sometimes. Supervised, of course. Even her concessions came with conditions. My video was complete, 20 minutes of beautifully edited footage that started sweet and ended with destruction. Marcus, the videographer, had outdone himself, creating something that would play perfectly on the reception's giant screens. I also prepared backup plans. USB drives with all the evidence emails scheduled to send if something went wrong, even printed photos in sealed envelopes as a nuclear option. The night before the wedding, I sat with Maya as she practiced violin. She'd been working on a complex piece, determined to perfect it. Mom, she said during a break, are we going to Aunt Beulah's wedding tomorrow? I'd been deliberately vague about our attendance. We'll go to the ceremony, I said carefully. But we might leave early. She nodded, wise beyond her years. Because they don't really want us there. I pulled her close. No, baby, because I don't want you around people who can't see how special you are. Family isn't about blood. It's about love and loyalty and showing up for each other. Tomorrow I'm going to show up for you in a big way. She hugged me back, trusting completely. That trust gave me strength for what was coming. The morning of Beulah's wedding dawned picture perfect with clear skies and a gentle breeze that whispered through the riverside venue's manicured gardens. I helped Maya into her prettiest dress, a deep purple number with silver butterflies that caught the light when she twirled. You look beautiful, baby, I told her, braiding silver ribbons through her hair. She smiled at our reflection, and I saw her straighten her shoulders with quiet dignity. My daughter understood we were walking into hostile territory, but she wouldn't let them see her hurt. We arrived at the venue during the pre-ceremony chaos. Bridesmaids fluttered around in matching blush gowns, while groomsmen adjusted boutonnieres and snuck flasks from jacket pockets. I found Beulah in the bridal suite, surrounded by hairstylists and makeup artists. She looked admittedly stunning in her $5,000 dress, a confection of lace and crystals that sparkled with every movement. For a moment, seeing my little sister in her wedding dress, I felt a pang of what we'd lost. Then she opened her mouth. Oh, good, you're here, she said, barely glancing up from her phone. Can you check that the videographer has the right playlist for the processional and Bessie? She finally looked at us, her eyes sliding over Maya like she was furniture. I said family only for the ready room. She can wait outside. Maya's hand tightened in mine, but before I could respond, my daughter spoke up. It's okay, Aunt Beulah. I know I'm not the right kind of family for your perfect day. The words delivered in Maya's sweet 8-year-old voice made several bridesmaids freeze mid-mascara application. Beulah's face flushed, but she recovered quickly. Don't be dramatic, Maya. There just isn't room. I smiled pleasantly. No problem. We'll see you at the ceremony. Oh, and I have your wedding gift ready. I think you'll find it memorable. We left the bridal suite and found seats in the garden where the ceremony would take place. Guests were arriving in waves, air-kissing, and admiring each other's outfits. I recognized family members who hadn't bothered to visit in years, all dressed up to celebrate Beulah's perfect love. Maya and I sat near the back, which gave me a clear view of everyone and everything, perfect for what was coming. Creighton stood at the altar, looking handsome in his classic tuxedo, the picture of a devoted groom. Only I noticed how his eyes kept darting to where Astrid stood with the other bridesmaids. She'd worn her hair up, exposing her neck in a way that made him visibly swallow. The officiant, unaware of the drama beneath the surface, smiled benevolently at the gathering crowd. 200 guests settled into white chairs tied with ribbons Beulah had agonized over for weeks. The music swelled and the processional began. Flower girls scattered petals with practiced precision while ring bearers managed not to trip. Each bridesmaid floated down the aisle, but Astrid's walk was different. She locked eyes with Creighton for a beat too long, a private moment in public view that made my stomach turn. How many other signs had everyone missed, or had they seen and chosen silence over truth? Then came Beulah, resplendent on our father's arm. Cameras clicked and phones rose as she glided past, her smile, radiant and triumphant. This was her moment, her vindication, proof that she'd done everything right. The good daughter with the traditional wedding and the appropriate bloodlines. I watched my father place her hand in Creighton's and wondered if he'd be so proud in an hour. The ceremony itself was a study in irony. Creighton's vows spoke of loyalty and trust, while his mistress stood 3 feet away, dabbing at fake tears. Beulah promised to stand by him through all of life's challenges, unaware she'd faced the first one before cutting the cake. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, I felt Maya tense beside me. "Not yet, baby," I whispered. "Timing is everything. You may kiss the bride." The crowd erupted in applause as Mr. and Mrs. Creighton Hamilton sealed their union. Rose petals fell like snow as they walked back down the aisle, Beulah's face glowing with victory. She'd gotten everything she wanted. The perfect venue, the perfect dress, the perfect husband. Well, 2 out of 3 wasn't bad. The reception would take care of that last illusion. Cocktail hour took place on the terrace overlooking the river. Maya and I mingled strategically, accepting congratulations from relatives who seemed surprised we'd attended. "Of course we're here," I said warmly. Family supports family. My mother appeared, champagne flute in hand, to issue instructions. "Bessie, we're doing family photos in 10 minutes, close family only." Her meaning was clear. Maya wouldn't be in the official wedding photos. "Actually, Mom, we won't be staying for dinner," I said conversationally. But I did want to give Beulah and Creighton their gift during the reception. I've arranged something special with the videographer. Her eyes narrowed with suspicion. "What kind of something?" I smiled mysteriously. "You'll see. I think everyone will be talking about it for years." The reception space took my breath away, even knowing what was coming. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow light over tables dressed in silk and roses. The band played jazz standards while waiters circulated with gourmet appetizers. Beulah and Creighton made their grand entrance to thunderous applause, immediately taking the floor for their first dance. They moved together perfectly, all those expensive lessons paying off. Watching them, you'd never guess the groom had spent the previous night in another woman's bed. After the formal dance's dinner service began, I noted Maya and I were seated at table 19, practically in the kitchen, with great aunts who spent the meal discussing their medical procedures. Maya pushed food around her plate, overwhelmed by the noise and knowing she wasn't really welcome. "Just a little longer," I promised. "Then we'll go somewhere special, just us." The speeches started with the best man, Creighton's college roommate, who told sanitized stories about their wild years. Then came Astrid, who managed to deliver a tribute to friendship and true love without bursting into flames from the hypocrisy. She actually teared up talking about how perfect Beulah and Creighton were together, how lucky they were to find each other. The performance deserved an award. I filmed it on my phone, thinking it would make excellent evidence in the divorce proceedings. My father spoke about traditional values and family legacy. My mother cried through a speech about finally seeing her daughter settled properly. Various relatives shared memories and advice. Then the band leader announced, "The sister of the bride has prepared a special video tribute to the happy couple." Beulah looked genuinely touched as the lights dimmed and the screens descended. I stood taking the microphone with steady hands. Family is everything to the Hamiltons. I began, my voice carrying clearly through the speakers. Today, I want to share the journey that brought us here to this perfect moment. The video began with baby photos of Beulah home movies, of Christmas mornings and birthday parties. The guests cooed at appropriate moments, wine-warm and sentimental. Beulah dabbed at her eyes, squeezing Creighton's hand. The tone shifted subtly as the video progressed to recent years. Clips from family gatherings showed Maya being gradually pushed to the edges, excluded from group photos, ignored during gift exchanges. The music underneath turned minor key as my voiceover continued. Family means different things to different people. To some, it's about blood. To others, it's about choice. Then came footage from the engagement dinner. Beulah's voice crystal clear, announcing roles for every child except Maya. "This is for family members," Maya asking what she could do. The crushing silence that followed. I heard gasps from the crowd as they recognized the cruelty played out on screen. But I was just getting started. "Some people talk about family values," my voice continued as the screen showed Beulah calling Maya some random kid and not real family. The wedding planning clips were worse. She's lucky someone takes care of the unwanted ones. After I have kids, real kids, maybe they can play with Maya. Supervised. Each word fell like a hammer in the silent room. Beulah's face had gone from confusion to horror, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly. But the thing about family, I said now, speaking live as the video continued, is that loyalty should go both ways. When you promise to love and cherish someone, that should mean something. When you stand before family and friends and pledge your truth, that truth should be true. The music changed to something darker as the screen filled with text messages. Crichton's name was clearly visible, as was Astrid's. The camera work zoomed in dramatically on key phrases. Can't wait to see you tonight. Beulah has no idea. After the wedding, we can be together more. The wedding guests sat frozen, watching a love story unravel in real time. Someone dropped a wine glass. The shatter seemed very loud. Hotel receipts flashed on screen. Credit card records. Security footage of Crichton and Astrid entering hotels, kissing in parking garages, shopping for jewelry that Beulah never received. The timestamps were damning, showing the affair went back 2 years, before the proposal, before Crichton bought that perfect ring with money he'd borrowed from Beulah's father. The coup de grace was audio from a conversation I'd managed to record during wedding prep. Astrid's voice filled the room. I can't believe she's so stupid. We've been fucking in her bed for months and she has no clue. Crichton's laugh followed. The trust fund kicks in after a year of marriage. Then we can stop pretending. The screens went dark. In the silence that followed, you could hear hearts breaking and illusions shattering. Then Beulah's scream split the air. She launched herself at Astrid with murderous intent. Wedding dress be damned. You bitch, you fucking bitch! Chairs toppled as people scrambled away from the violence. Astrid tried to run, but her heels betrayed her. Beulah caught her by the hair, yanking her to the ground. Crichton stood frozen for a fatal second before self-preservation kicked in. He tried to flee, but groomsmen blocked his path. The best man, his college roommate, punched him square in the jaw. You piece of shit! I gave a speech about your love! Crichton went down hard, his nose fountaining blood onto his white shirt. My parents screamed my name, their faces twisted with rage. How could you do this? My mother shrieked. You've ruined everything! My father looked like he might have a stroke, his face purple with fury. Get out now, you're no daughter of mine. I stood calmly in the eye of the storm, Maya's hand in mine. A daughter who protects her child from cruelty. You're right, I'm not your daughter, I'm hers. I gestured to Maya, who stood tall despite the chaos. And she's worth more than all your traditions and bloodlines combined. Security arrived to separate Beulah and Astrid. The maid of honor's dress was torn, her hair extensions scattered on the dance floor. Beulah had to be physically restrained, still trying to claw at her former best friend. Mascara ran down her face in black rivers, her perfect makeup destroyed along with her perfect day. I'll kill you! She screamed. I'll fucking kill both of you! Crichton tried to approach her, blood still dripping from his nose. Baby, please let me explain. She whirled on him with violence in her eyes. Don't you dare! Don't you fucking dare! She grabbed a champagne bottle from the nearest table and would have brained him with it if security hadn't intervened. As uniformed officers escorted the main players away, I picked up the microphone one last time. To those who showed Maya kindness, thank you. To those who didn't, I hope you learned something about the cost of cruelty. And to my daughter, I looked down at her brave, beautiful face. Let's go get ice cream. We walked out of that ruined reception with heads high, past overturned chairs and shattered centerpieces, through crowds of shell-shocked guests still processing what they'd witnessed. Behind us, the perfect wedding had become a perfect disaster. The band had fled, the cake stood untouched, the photographer was still filming, probably already calculating how much he could sell the footage for. In the parking lot, Maya looked up at me with wonder. Mom, you destroyed everything. I knelt to her level, taking her small hands in mine. No, baby, I revealed the truth. There's a difference. They destroyed themselves long before today. She thought about this, then nodded. Good, she said firmly. They were mean. As I drove away from the venue, I saw police cars arriving, probably called to deal with the violence. Tomorrow there would be consequences, family fallout, legal threats. But tonight I was taking my daughter for ice cream. My real family. My chosen family. The only family that mattered. The fallout began before we even finished our ice cream. My phone exploded with calls and texts, the notifications coming so fast the screen became unreadable. I turned it off completely, focusing on Maya as she worked through a hot fudge sundae. "Are you in trouble, Mom?" she asked between bites. I considered the question seriously. With some people, yes, but sometimes doing the right thing means making people angry. She nodded solemnly. Like when I told the teacher about kids cheating. They got mad, but it was still right. By the next morning, the story had evolved far beyond a family scandal. Someone, probably a guest, desperate for internet fame, had posted cell phone footage of the reception meltdown. "Bride attacks, maid of honor at wedding" was trending on social media. The video showed Beulah in her designer dress, physically assaulting Astrid while screaming profanities. Comments poured in by the thousands, debating whether I was a hero or villain for exposing the affair so publicly. My phone, when I finally turned it back on, contained 47 missed calls from my parents, 23 from Beulah, and surprisingly, 15 from Creighton. The voicemails ranged from tearful pleas to violent threats. My father's message was particularly venomous. "You vindictive bitch! You destroyed your sister's life over petty jealousy. You're dead to this family if I ever see you or that kid again." I deleted it before he could finish the threat. Beulah took to social media with the fury of a woman scorned twice over. Her Instagram, usually filled with perfect lifestyle content, became a manifesto of blame. According to her version, I was a bitter, barren woman who couldn't stand seeing her younger sister happy. She painted herself as the victim of a cruel sister's jealousy, claiming I'd fabricated evidence and manipulated footage to destroy her marriage. "She's always been jealous of me," one post read. "Ever since I was born, prettier, smarter, more successful. She couldn't have children naturally, so she bought one. And when we didn't pretend that was normal, she decided to ruin my life." The lies were breathtaking. She claimed the affair evidence was doctored, that Creighton had been set up, that I'd paid Astrid to seduce him. She even suggested I'd drug them both to create compromising situations. Her followers, mostly acquaintances who knew her surface-level charm, rallied to her defense. "Your sister is clearly mentally ill," one commented. "Jealousy makes people do terrible things," added another. The narrative was building poor Beulah betrayed by everyone she trusted. But Beulah made a critical error. In her rage, she couldn't resist taking shots at Maya. One post read, "My sister ruined my wedding because I wouldn't let her prop daughter be in family photos. I was trying to maintain standards and traditions. Is that so wrong? Should I have to pretend someone else's abandoned child is my niece?" Another said, "Maybe if she'd managed to have a real baby instead of collecting strays, she wouldn't be so bitter about my happiness." That's when the tide turned. Screenshots of her posts went viral, especially in adoption and parenting communities. People who'd initially sympathized with the bride, betrayed by her groom and sister, suddenly saw the fuller picture. The hashtag #NotRealFamily began trending, but not in the way Beulah intended. Adoptive families shared their own stories of discrimination and hurt. Maya's exclusion from the wedding became the real story, not the affair exposure. Local news picked up the story. "Wedding disaster exposes family's treatment of adopted child." Reporters called requesting interviews. I declined them all, but other wedding guests didn't show such restraint. Beulah's cousin Rachel went on record describing the systematic exclusion of Maya from family events. A waiter who'd worked the reception confirmed that the child had been seated at the worst table, practically in the kitchen. The narrative shifted. Brave mother protects daughter from toxic family. Creighton's family attempted damage control by threatening legal action. Their lawyer sent a cease and desist letter claiming defamation and emotional distress. I forwarded it to my own attorney along with the full evidence file. She laughed when she called me back. "They're bluffing. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. Every single thing you showed was real and documented. If they want to go to court and have this evidence entered into public record, that's their choice." The legal threats evaporated quickly after that conversation. Meanwhile, Creighton faced his own consequences. His employer, a prestigious law firm that valued reputation above all, placed him on administrative leave pending investigation. Apparently, using company credit cards for hotel rooms with your fiancé's best friend violated their ethics policies. Who knew? His LinkedIn profile quietly disappeared, and former colleagues distanced themselves from the scandal. Astrid fled the city entirely. Her social media went dark after thousands of comments called her everything from homewrecker to worse. Her employer, ironically a wedding planning company, terminated her immediately. Last I heard, she'd moved back with her parents in Ohio, her dreams of being a social media influencer thoroughly destroyed. The internet, it turns out, doesn't forget women who sleep with their best friend's fiancé. The extended family fracture was immediate and severe. Those who'd silently condoned Maya's exclusion suddenly found themselves under scrutiny. My aunt, who'd asked why I couldn't have real children at the baby shower, received backlash when that video clip circulated. Cousins who'd remained neutral were forced to pick sides. Some reached out privately to apologize, admitting they'd always thought the treatment of Maya was wrong but hadn't wanted to cause drama. "We should have spoken up," one cousin texted. "Your daughter deserved better from all of us." My parents attempted reconciliation exactly once, showing up at my apartment uninvited. I watched through the peephole as they stood in the hallway, my mother clutching tissues and my father looking uncomfortable. "Bessie, please," my mother called through the door. "We need to talk about this as a family," I spoke through the intercom. "Maya is my family until you understand that we have nothing to discuss." They left after 20 minutes of pleading and threatening alternately. The school situation was more complex. Some of Maya's classmates had seen the viral videos or heard their parents discussing the scandal. Kids can be cruel with gossip, and Maya faced questions about why her family hated her, whether she was really adopted, and if her mom was crazy. One particularly nasty child, the daughter of Beulah's friend, told Maya she understood why nobody wanted her. I found my daughter crying in the bathroom after school, her confidence shattered. That's when I made the decision to release everything. Not just the affair evidence, but the full pattern of emotional abuse Maya had endured. I created a comprehensive post titled, "Why I Protected My Daughter," including audio recordings of family members calling her not real family, videos of her exclusion from events, and screenshots of every cruel message. But most powerfully, I included Maya's own words, written in her careful 8-year-old handwriting. "My name is Maya. I am adopted, and I am real. I do homework and play violin and love my mom. I don't understand why Grandma and Grandpa don't want me in pictures. I tried to be good. I got straight A's and said please and thank you, but they still said I wasn't family. That made me sad. But my mom says family is about love. She loves me so much she stood up to everyone. That makes me feel brave too." The response was overwhelming. The post was shared hundreds of thousands of times. Adoption advocates, child psychologists, and parenting experts weighed in on the damage of treating adopted children as less than. Celebrities who were themselves adopted or had adopted children amplified the message. Maya's violin teacher organized a benefit concert for adoption awareness. Her school implemented new anti-bullying protocols, specifically addressing adoption discrimination. Beulah tried one last counterattack, appearing on a local morning show to tell her side. It was a disaster. The host herself, an adoptive mother, grilled Beulah about her comments, calling Maya someone else's abandoned child and not real family. Beulah tried to claim her words were taken out of context, but when they played the full audio, she broke down crying and walked off set. The interview clip was titled "Worst Guest Ever" and added to her viral infamy. Corporate consequences followed. Beulah's employer, a high-end PR firm, couldn't afford the negative association. Clients threatened to leave if she remained on their accounts. She was quietly terminated with a minimal severance package that required her silence about the circumstances. The woman who'd built her identity on image and perfection was now unemployable in her chosen field. Karma, it seemed, had excellent timing. The divorce proceedings were swift. With the evidence of Crichton's 2-year affair splashed across the internet, he had no leverage. Beulah got the house and half the assets, but the trust fund her father had set up required 1 year of marriage to vest fully. She'd been married for exactly 6 hours. Crichton, broke and disgraced, moved back with his parents. Last update I saw, he was working at his uncle's car dealership, a spectacular fall from grace for someone who'd dreamed of partnership at a major firm. Through all of this, I focused on Maya's healing. We found an excellent therapist who specialized in adoption trauma and family rejection. Slowly, Maya began to understand that the problem was never her, but the small hearts of people who couldn't expand their definition of family. We joined support groups, made friends with other adoptive families, and built a community of people who understood that love, not DNA, makes a family. 3 months after the wedding, an unexpected message arrived. Beulah's therapist reached out asking if I'd consider family therapy sessions. Apparently, losing everything had forced Beulah to confront some hard truths about herself. I agreed to 1 session alone without Maya. Beulah looked different, older, her perfect facade cracked. "I'm sorry," she said, and for the first time seemed to mean it. "I was so focused on having the perfect life that I couldn't see. I was destroying everything good." I listened, but made no promises. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. Trust once shattered takes more than apologies to restore. 6 months after the wedding that shook our family to its foundations, Maya and I had settled into a new rhythm of life. Our Thursday afternoon therapy sessions had become as routine as violin practice and homework time. Dr. Sarah, a warm woman with silver-streaked hair and an office full of plants, had created a safe space where Maya could process the rejection and reclaim her sense of self. "How do you feel about your extended family now?" she asked during one session. Maya thought carefully, then said, "Sad for them. They missed out on knowing how awesome I am." Even Dr. Sarah couldn't hide her smile at that self-assured response. Our apartment had transformed too. The walls that once held photos of extended family gatherings now showcased our chosen family friends who'd rallied around us during the storm. There was Jennifer, the single mom from Maya's school who'd immediately offered support when the story broke. Marcus and David, the couple downstairs, who'd become surrogate uncles, teaching Maya to cook and helping with math homework. Rachel, Beulah's cousin, who'd spoken out against the family's treatment, now joined us for Sunday dinners. We'd built something beautiful from the ashes of what we'd lost. The support group for adoptive families had become our anchor. Every other Wednesday, we gathered at the community center with other families who understood that love makes a family not shared genetics. Maya had found particular friendship with Lily, a Korean girl adopted by two moms who'd faced their own family rejection. Watching them giggle over shared jokes and secret handshakes, I saw Maya's confidence blooming again. She wasn't alone in her experience, and that knowledge was powerful. Work had actually improved after the scandal. My boss, initially concerned about the viral attention, had become one of my strongest supporters after understanding the full story. She'd promoted me to senior marketing director, noting that anyone who could strategically plan and execute such a precise response to injustice had exactly the skills their firm needed. The raise meant I could finally afford the bigger apartment Maya and I had been dreaming about, one with a dedicated space for her music practice. We moved on Maya's 9th birthday, and she chose to celebrate, not with a big party, but with an intimate gathering of our chosen family. As she blew out her candles, surrounded by people who truly loved and valued her, I saw no trace of the uncertain girl who'd wondered why she wasn't family enough. This Maya stood tall, confident in her worth, and secure in the knowledge that she was deeply loved. The school year brought unexpected joy. Maya's essay about family, the one I'd shared during the social media storm, had won a national contest for young writers. She was invited to read it at a conference on adoption and child welfare. Standing at that podium, my barely 9-year-old daughter spoke with poise about love acceptance and the courage to define family for yourself. The standing ovation brought tears to my eyes. In the audience, I spotted several familiar faces, other adoptive families who'd reached out during our crisis. We'd inadvertently started a movement. Beulah continued therapy and had reached out several times through her therapist about possible reconciliation. I'd agreed to monthly emails, carefully supervised and reviewed before Maya saw them. The early ones were still tinged with self-pity and excuse-making, but gradually something like genuine remorse emerged. She wrote about understanding her own insecurities, how she'd been so desperate to be perfect that she'd forgotten how to be human. She was volunteering at a children's shelter, learning about the kids she'd once dismissed as unwanted. Growth, perhaps, but trust would take much longer to rebuild, if ever. My parents remained steadfast in their position. They'd sent one letter through their lawyer offering to accept Maya into family gatherings if I agreed to apologize publicly for ruining Beulah's wedding. The condition-laden offer revealed they'd learned nothing. I filed the letter away and continued building a life where Maya would never again question her worth based on their narrow definitions. An unexpected silver lining emerged through Crichton's spectacular fall from grace. 3 of his ex-girlfriends, emboldened by the public exposure of his pattern, had connected and started a support group for women who'd been manipulated by narcissistic partners. One reached out to thank me for exposing him, sharing how his gaslighting had affected her for years. "You didn't just protect your daughter," she wrote. "You prevented him from doing this to other women." Sometimes the ripples of our actions spread farther than we imagine. Maya's music had become her outlet and her joy. Her violin teacher, moved by her story, had waived fees and provided extra lessons. The improvement was remarkable technical skill matched with emotional depth that came from her experiences. When she performed at the school talent show playing a piece about resilience, she'd partially composed herself. There wasn't a dry eye in the auditorium. My daughter had transformed her pain into something beautiful. The holidays approached with a different energy than previous years. Instead of forcing ourselves through awkward family gatherings where Maya was tolerated but not celebrated, we created new traditions. Thanksgiving with our chosen family filled our new apartment with laughter and gratitude. Christmas morning started with volunteering at the shelter, where Beulah now worked, Maya helping younger kids open presents with genuine joy. We'd learned that giving love to those who needed it felt better than begging for scraps from those who withheld it. I'd started dating again cautiously, His name was Thomas, a widower with 2 adopted sons he'd raised alone after losing his wife to cancer. We'd met at the support group, bonding over single parenthood and the fierce protectiveness that comes with raising children others had failed to value. Maya approached this development with characteristic wisdom. "He seems nice," she said, after their first meeting, "and his kids know what it's like, too. Maybe we could be a bigger family together someday." The possibility hung in the air, fragile but hopeful. One evening, as I tucked Maya into bed, she asked a question that stopped my heart. "Mom, do you think Grandma and Grandpa will ever love me?" I sat on her bed, choosing my words carefully. "I don't know, baby. Some people have hearts that only open certain ways. But here's what I do know. You have so much love in your life from people who choose you every single day. And that kind of love, the kind you have to earn and fight for and prove worthy of, that's the strongest love there is." She nodded, processing this. "I feel bad for them," she said finally. "They're missing out on knowing me, and I'm pretty great." I laughed, pulling her close. "You are beyond great. You're extraordinary." She snuggled in, then added quietly, "Thanks for standing up for me, Mom, even when it was scary." I kissed her forehead. "Always, baby. That's what real family does." As I write this sitting in our new home office, while Maya practices violin in her music room, I'm struck by how different our lives look from that horrible night when she wasn't family enough for wedding photos. We lost people who shared our DNA, but not our values. In exchange, we gained a community that sees Maya's light and helps it shine brighter. The path here was painful, marked by public humiliation and private tears. But we emerged stronger, surrounded by love that doesn't require quotation marks or qualifiers. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when the world tries to dim your child's light, who stands with you when standing is hard, who sees the beauty in a love that doesn't look like what they expected. Maya taught me that. My brave, brilliant daughter who refused to be defined by others' limitations. And I'll keep showing up for her, keep standing up to anyone who tries to make her feel less than the miracle she is. Because that's what real mothers do. That's what real family does, and we're as real as it gets. Real as it. The wedding disaster had made headlines, but our quiet triumph was the better story. A mother and daughter who refused to accept conditional love. A family of 2 who became a family of many. A little girl who learned that her worth wasn't determined by DNA or traditions or the small minds of people too afraid to expand their hearts. That's the story I want the world to know. That's the legacy we're building, one chosen family gathering at a time. Looking back, would I do it all again? Absolutely. Every exposed secret, every burned bridge, every viral moment of chaos was worth it to see Maya standing tall, secure in the knowledge that she is valued, she is loved, she is family. Some might call what I did revenge. I call it protection. I call it love in action. I call it motherhood without apology. And if that's wrong, I don't want to be right. So here's my question for you. What would you have done in my position? If your child was being systematically excluded and hurt by people who claim to be family, how far would you go to protect them? Would you keep the peace at the cost of your child's self-worth? Or would you burn it all down to build something better from the ashes? Let me know in the comments below, and please share this story with anyone who needs to hear that family isn't just about blood, it's about love that fights, protects, and never gives up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you believe in chosen families and fierce mama bears who will do anything for their cubs. Like this video if you think Maya deserves all the love in the world, because trust me, she does. Thank you for being part of our story, for seeing our worth when others couldn't. Remember, you deserve to be surrounded by people who choose you, celebrate you, and never make you question if you're enough. Because you are. You always were. And anyone who can't see that, well, they're the ones who aren't family enough for you.